Hello class, my name is Colin Rodriguez, and today I'm going to be presenting my presentation on the differential association reinforcement theory. So the first question that comes in mind is, what is the differential association reinforcement theory? So this theory is the theory where that is believed that you learn criminal behaviors and you learn how to produce these criminal behaviors based on who you hang out with and basically do life with. This theory suggests that criminal behavior is mainly learned through your peers, your friends, the people that you might call family. Um, and differential association reinforcement theory basically shares the idea that anyone could be a criminal, that criminal activity can be done from whoever, no matter what income, what lifestyle they have, what background they might come from, what race, um, what social issues that they might have faced when they were growing up. So this theory kind of is very, I want to say, like broad, um, like or specific theory that just focuses on more of just who you hang out with instead of any social issues. And one question that's important about this theory is who came up with the differential association theory. So it turns out that the differential association reinforcement theory had its foundation from an earlier theory called the differential association theory. And the founder of that theory was Edwin H. Sutherland, which was a criminologist that created this theory that focused on how people learn criminal behaviors through their social environment. And in 1965, two men, I believe they were also sociologists, I might be mistaken, named Ronald and Robert. They introduced their modified version of the theory called differential association reinforcement theory, which focused more on behaviorism and like how people learn criminal activities based on who they are, like who they hang out with, and some other stuff that we'll get into later on. So what is the main difference between Edwin and Robert Ronald's theory? So Edwin's theory focused on criminal behavior, how it's learned and influenced by the peers that you encounter. So like Edwin's theory, for example, would basically say, oh, if the peers that have seen, so like let's say you see other kids that are smoking, it might influence you to follow that same path. While Ronald and Robert's theory shares that like criminal behavior is learned by the people that you share time with and like how you hang out with or who you hang out with. And it also shows you how to commit deviant behavior and reap the reward without suffering consequences of punishment. So like an example of that would be, for example, let's say you have a friend group that just for some reason like wants to rob a convenience store, and they know a specific convenience store that doesn't have that many cameras or the lighting is not that great, where they could kind of hide themselves and just be able to commit this crime and see very little punishment coming because they know that that area is light on police activity. So that's an example where um with the peer group that you have, um they see the consequences that might happen and the reward, and they could choose whether or not to commit the crime. And Ronald and Robert's theory also shows that people learn how to commit deviant behaviors um by their peers, and like again how they compare the benefits that might be coming from committing this crime and like the punishment that might come as well. So in the next slide, We'll be talking about the roots of the differential association reinforcement theory. So, like I said earlier, the differential association reinforcement theory got its foundation off of the differential association theory. So, this theory, in particular, concludes basically that like let's say a certain crime pattern is constantly being introduced in your life. So, for example, let's say um you live in a neighborhood where there's always constantly grand theft, and there's always cars being stolen. This crime basically says that it would affect you, where you would kind of, since you live in that area, you would learn how to commit this crime and would want be influenced as well to continue and committing these crimes. The differential reinforcement theory basically took from this foundation, moved more to a psychological response, claiming like that people learn criminal behaviors from others, and would commit crimes based on the involvement with the people that they surround themselves. So just like going back, how the differential association theory would say that outside factors would affect you and strengthen your implications to certain crime or involvement to certain criminal acts. Um, the differential association reinforcement theory took from that idea and just shine more that the people that you learn from are a bigger factor than the circumstances that might be happening outside in your outside life. Going in, the differential association reinforcement theory has 7 propositions that were came up by Ronald and Robert. And the first one is criminal behavior is learned according to the principles of the operant conditioning. So what this basically means is that um, that criminal behavior is learned based on like the involvement of like and of you and like that peer group, um and like what they kind of show you and what might come about it. um the second point that is brought up is that criminal behavior is learned both in non-social and situations or social situations. So an example of this could be like you hanging out with a friend group, and they just talk about certain like acts that they want to commit, and that would be in a social situation, and a non-social could be like through social media, sharing like information like that. And the next point that is the principal parts of learning occurs in groups. So this theory mainly suggests that you can't learn criminal behavior mainly on yourself, but it would have to be a group sharing this information and just kind of feeding you and building you up like that. Um, and going on to the next point, the learning of criminal behavior includes specific techniques, attitudes, evaluating procedures, its function of effectiveness, available reinforcement, and existing reinforcements, contingencies. So this one is a big one. This theory basically also shares that since your involvement with your peer groups that are showing you these how to commit these criminal acts would also introduce to you how to either avoid getting caught, or how to actually properly um, commit these crimes, where you could go on for as many times as you want without having to worry about getting caught or just getting any repercussions. So those are the first 4 points. The next 3 points are the first one is the specific class of behaviors which are learned and their frequency of occurrence are a function of reinforcement, which are effective and available, and the rules or norms by which of these reinforcements are applied. So this point itself basically talks about how behavior depends on how reinforcements are applied, um, and how and how so going back to this, this point also shares so going back to this point basically discussed that how behaviors are learned, um and how like effective and how much of a role it would play in your life based on how you kind of not grow up with it, but how much of importance it plays. Um, Now going to the next point, criminal behavior is a function of norms which are discriminative for criminal behavior. So what this point basically suggests is that a person would become a, a, a del- a person will become a delinquent based on the functions of the norms that and that they are built upon. And the final point is the strength of criminal behavior depends on the frequency and the probability of its reinforcement. So with this point, it basically says that criminal behaviors, the more you feed it and the more you kind of grow, the more it would um, be like a stronger, it will play a stronger role in one's life. Um, so with this theory, it begs the question, what was the target group for this theory? So when it was first introduced. So when this theory was first introduced, it was mainly targeted as like its focus group was mainly like meant for juveniles that were involved with delinquent behaviors because they wanted to know what was causing the delinquent behaviors. If it was either just kids just involved in the delinquent like or deviant behaviors and just out of their own self curiosity and just own self will wanted to just participate in these behaviors, or if it was their friend groups that were introducing and just all of them just wanting to um, be involved with it. And when this theory was first introduced, it studied adolescents that would smoke and having drinking behaviors and use of drugs as their kind of experimental and focus group. So what are some cons about the differential association reinforcement theory? So one major con about this theory um, is that it's very difficult to measure. Unlike other theories where you could kind of guess the like estimate and be able to throw a statistics, this one is very difficult because it's one of those theories that is kind of like the chicken and the egg, where you would have to kind of have a guess if it's either the if you single out a person and it's either from their personal experiences or if it's actually from their peers that is reinforcing these behaviors. This theory also does not consider outside circumstances that might affect a person or a group's attitude. Just like how we said in the beginning, this theory does not take account of income, their class, not even mental health, which all play a role in people's behaviors. And this theory mainly suggests that since we're all different with different thinking patterns, that is the reason why most of us, or why some of us would more likely commit crimes and learn how to commit crimes. Um, um, an example of the differential reinforcement theory would have to be, let's say, a youth spending time together with his friends, and all of them start smoking weed. And at the time, he doesn't know what it is or how to um, like smoking. And as he spends more time with his friend group, he's like learns what he could use or what he could do to smoke it or consume it. And as he continues on with his friends and his friend groups, he also learns how to hide it from his parents so they wouldn't find or smell the smells that it would be leaving. And he would also find ways where he could purchase it behind their back and just get connected to all those negative people that are bringing down this kid. So that's the example how based on your friend group and how much you associate with them would result in such behaviors. In conclusion, the association reinforcement theory states that criminal behavior is basically learned by the people that you are surrounded with. Um, the theory started to figure out if youth either fell into deviant behavior or got introduced by a group. And this theory has many holes because of how hard it is to measure like its effectiveness. Um, and then these are my references, and that's my presentation. Thank you.